Hey, what's up? This is Brendan, and today we're going to take another look at Wiz-War from Fantasy Flight Games. It has been a while. I'm looking forward to breaking this back out. And if you don't already know about this game, it originally came out in the 80s, and it was all done on cardboard and paper, essentially. And Fantasy Flight in 2012 came out with this set with the miniatures and just redid the whole thing, making it really nice and exciting. I will put a link in the description below to the promo video that got me really interested in this game. When I love a game as much as I like this one, I go through and I paint all the miniatures, so I'm going to share those with you and also talk about this awesome game. It does have 2 expansions, which came out in, I believe, 2013 and 2014, or maybe both in 14. So in the original base game, you have your 4 wizards, the blue, the yellow, the green, and the red. And because this game has been played so much, some of the paint has chipped off. Go ahead and focus. And I was kind of unhappy with the way that the overcoat on these is really glossy. So I'm thinking I'm going to go through and I'm going to repaint or fix the chips that have come off. Like on her leg there, you can see some of the paints come off. Fix those up and then put some dull coat over it to make sure that it's not so shiny. That's always kind of bothered me, but you know, I did do these 6 years ago. So for the basing, I just did sand, and I painted the sand black and did a dry brush of gray over it. That way they kind of match, like this texture kind of matches like the stone of the labyrinth, the board that you play on, which we'll talk about more in a bit. All of these were done to match the artwork on the cards. So it's kind of interesting because the box art, the rulebook art, and the cards, the coloration is not consistent. There's a little bit of different tinting and different colors used. So I kind of looked at all the different art for each character and kind of did it the way that I kind of thought was sort of an average between all of it, so the characters match as much as I could to the original artwork. So like the green wizard here, you can kind of see his face and his coloration, and this is what he looks like on the rulebook. But that green and yellowish green isn't necessarily consistent through the art. But like I said, I just kind of did the average and kind of made it as close as I could get to all the pieces of art that I saw. So yeah, that was the 4 base game models. The base game also comes with alternative miniatures that your wizards can turn themselves into, either temporarily or permanently. You have the ooze. When you're the ooze and you move through somebody, then you do a damage to them. Then you have the gnome. He can cancel opponents' attacks sometimes. You have the werewolf. This is based straight on the artwork of the werewolf, which looks like that. So there you go. Then you have the golem, who's like a tank. He also, the shininess of this overcoat really bothers me. So when I put some dull coat over this and take some of that shine off, you're going to see all the little details that I did on the golem. He makes it so you prevent some of the damage done to you. Then you have the big man form, kind of like an ogre, and he can push people around. When you move into somebody, you push them down the hallway or whatever. And most of these you just turn into temporarily, except for the werewolf, which you can be permanently until you decide to just drop the spell. So that's the miniatures from the base game. And then when in the expansion Bestial Forces came out, they decided to add in summoning characters. So you can actually summon a drake, you can summon the genie, you can summon the minotaur. This is a mystic snake, boggart, and Grendel. And then in the other expansion, Malefic Curses added a 5th purple wizard, and he's like a necromancer guy. All right, so that's all the painted miniatures. Like I said, I'm going to go through and touch up a little bit of the paint that's come off and do dull coat on everything. Also, these guys, I realize now, don't have the sand on their bases, so I'm going to do them up with that sand color to make it look like dungeon basing on everybody. Okay, so that's the miniatures. Now I want to talk a little bit about this game. You're basically playing capture the flag in a dungeon, and there's a lot of silliness to it. It's very random. You can move 3 squares per turn, and you have your home sector. You have treasures of your color that people can come by and grab. You can go to their sector and grab some of their treasure. You try to get 2 points. You get a point by knocking a wizard out. You get a point by having someone else's treasure in your home sector. It's also like Pac-Man, how the board works, because there are these magic portals, and when you go out one portal, you come back in the other portal of the same color, so you kind of like go across the table, which is kind of an interesting way to get across the table. So you're just trying to play out as much interesting combos and spells as you can. You're trying to create walls and do a fireball and run around the table and grab their treasure. This game comes with a lot of different pieces. You have these right here that track how much life you have left. These are trackers for how much life or how many hit points your creatures have left. Tokens for if you have to drop any items, these get dropped onto the board. These are some like traps and things. When you build walls or destroy walls, there's some other treasure pieces there. You have energy and stun and cracks when the walls are starting to be destroyed. You have little hats in case you have two different players have the same spell on the table. You mark them with these hats, and these are hex tokens, which we'll get to when I talk about the different spells. So you create a deck or 2 decks of spells, and each player is going to be playing out of those decks. In the base game, you have cantrip and black cantrip. They're basically the same thing, except they're like basic magic. Create a wall, destroy a wall, dispel something, throw a rock at someone. Very basic. You usually just use one, but you can use both if you want to have 2 different decks. It's an optional way to build your spellbook, basically. Then the more interesting decks are then mentalism, and mentalism is crazy because you make people discard cards and you hurt them really bad and you move them around the table. It can be really devastating. Then on the next one you have elemental, which is water versus fire. You got your fireball, and then you can drown the whole the table in a flood, so then all the fire is put out, so it's fire versus water. These two together, mentalism and elemental, can create some really nasty combos, and you could almost wipe somebody out in one turn if you get the right combination of cards. So moving on in the base game, you also have with the werewolf form there, that is mutation. That's turning your wizard into different things. So all those different creatures that I showed you, the ooze and the gnome, you can turn yourself into those temporarily or permanently. In the case of the werewolf, you might also turn your arm into stretchy arm and be able to grab something from further away. That's pretty cool. Next one is Thaumaturgy, which is kind of like a ancient form of cantrip. And Thaumaturgy, you have like ancient artifacts and some more powerful versions of the cantrips. Then you have enchantment, which like Thornbush, you are creating tokens on the table, and like a rose bush and different things to block your opponents around the table. Then you have alchemy. This creates magic stones and magic potions that you carry around with you, and you can throw them. It might be acid that breaks down a wall, or boomstone, like a fireball, things like that. The 2 expansions have 3 decks apiece. The the top row here is from Bestial Forces. You have mythology, so there's like Thor's hammer and Medusa's gaze, things of that nature, like a mythology type theme. Then the next one is draconic, dragon theme. You turn your body and different parts of your body into different dragon parts, like you get wings and fly, or you can do dragon breath or slap something with your dragon tail. Then you have totems. And a lot of these spells will throw down a totem token, and you get an ability in that space, wherever you put that token. So you're summoning like spirits, basically. In Malefic Curses, you have chaos magic. Chaos magic does a lot of, well, chaotic things. You roll the die, and that might be how much damage you do. Or if you're in the Prismatic Mist, you roll a die to see what happens. It's a lot of die rolling to do random things, which is fun. You have necromancy, which is a lot of skull and skeleton based themed powers, like you get bone armor, or you create a boneyard, or you summon a skull with which you can cast your spells through. Pretty neat. And the last one is called Hex Craft, and these spells throw down these hex tokens, kind of like these spirits, and you get abilities based on whichever one you put and where you put them on the table. So, yeah, you usually do 3 different decks and cantrip shuffle them together, and that's kind of the theme of each game. There's a lot of randomness. You can't really take it that seriously. You're just trying to create some cool, fun combos in Wiz-War. So, if you like Capture the Flag in a dungeon, check out Wiz-War. If you like the way I painted these models, you can commission me to paint your stuff. I am Born Painting on social media. So, yeah, just message me and we'll work something out for you. So, hope you enjoyed this, and I will talk to you later. Thanks for watching.